Hare Krishna. Who is this? Hare Krishna. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you, Mataji. Don't say I'm the first one on at the moment.
Let's start, right? We're going to start with a small kirtan and then we'll do introduction. And then we'll do introduction on page 1 of Bhagavad Gita.
Okay, I am Rasavati Dasi.
Okay. Oh, welcome, Mataji. Welcome. Yes, I saw you join the WhatsApp group chat today.
Yes,
or yesterday
yes.
or something. Okay, lovely. We're waiting to hear your contributions later.
Oh, I'm not so versatile with this.
Okay, that's fine. We will just go with the flow. All right.
Okay.
Let's start with Kirtan, right?
Okay.
Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Vinatine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pratarine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschita Vichatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivachari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Radhanath Radha Radhanath Radhe Jaya Radha Krishna Radha Krishna Radhe Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Jai Sachinandana Jai Sachinandana Jai Sachinandana Gaura Hari Nitai 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 Gauranga Nitai 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 Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Jaya Gaura Hari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada ki Jai. Okay, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome to this evening's discussion session. Let us read our introduction prayer from Bhagavad Gita as it is, page 1. We can all read the Sanskrit prayer together, and after that, maybe we can get someone to read the English, just the English translation. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapatikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagananvitam Tam Sajivam Tadvitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrinda Vrindeshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, everyone. So last week, we almost completed the discussion session. We left out verse number 44 though, so I think we should just pick up from there. We're on chapter 2, verse 44. In my book, it's on page 116. Right? Chapter 2, verse 44. I'm going to just share my screen here quickly. Sorry. Okay, it's last week's. Anybody want to read that verse for us in the meantime, while I'm just trying to project on my screen?
Okay, I'll read where.
Okay, read it, please.
Okay. Okay. Oh, Yogeshwarya Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yogeshwarya Prasakantanam Taya Bhartaschetasham Vyavasya Yaktmika Buddhi Samhado Na Vidhetyate. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Purport: Samadhi means fixed mind. The Vedic dictionary, the Nirikuti, says Samyak adhityate smin atma tattva yathatmayam. When the mind is fixed for understanding the self, it is said to be in Samadhi. Samadhi is never possible for persons interested in the material sense enjoyments and bewildered by such temporary things. They are more or less condemned by the process of material energy. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, thank you. So last week, if you'll remember, just a quick recap, we were talking about the Vedas and the different sections of the Vedas, and we spoke about the Karmakand section of the Veda, which deals mainly with fruitive activities. And we said that one who is attached to receiving results of his actions, one who wants to enjoy his senses and enjoy material comforts, tend to cling on to cling to rituals in the Karmakand section of the Vedas. And also on that note, we said that we cannot and do not fault the Vedas. We do not fault the Karmakand section of the Vedas because the Vedas come from Krishna. And we also quoted verse 15 in chapter 15, where Krishna says that from me, the Vedas emanate from me. I am to be known by Vedanta. So we know that the Vedas come from Krishna. But it's just that it's characterized, the Vedas, it's broken down into different pieces dependent on what the individual is seeking. Now we, as Krishna conscious devotees, or people who are serious practitioners and want to know their destination, those who want to go back home to Godhead, those who are wanting to get out of the pangs of material nature, they concentrate on studying things like the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is also part of the Vedas. I think it's the 5th Veda, as we'll read later on, Prabhupada says, because the Bhagavad Gita gives us this understanding by which we can come out of this ocean of material birth and death. All right. And then here it's also said Samadhi means fixed mind. So one whose mind is fixed in understanding the self, in understanding the soul, and thereby understanding God. Because we said also before that we are small parts and parcels of the bigger picture. We are jivas, part of Paramatma. And Prabhupada said to us previously in our previous class that first of all, try and understand the small God, understand his spark or his energy, who is us, souls. Then you look at the bigger picture and try and get the understanding of God. Right? So when the mind is fixed for understanding the self, that is us, it is said to be samadhi. Samadhi is never possible for persons interested in material sense enjoyment. Therefore, we say, if we're following ritualistic activities, then such people are more in touch with material sense enjoyment. And what Prabhupada goes on to say here, and Krishna goes on to say here, when the mind is fixed in understanding the self, right? Or rather, let's reverse it. What Krishna goes on to say here, if the mind is set in material sense enjoyment, then mind will not be in samadhi. It won't be fixed in understanding the self. Okay, so that was the last verse from last week's class. Let me just stop sharing this now and go on to today's slide. All right, so today we're on verse 45. Who's reading for us now? Anybody want to read this verse? Here we go, there's it. Okay, right, whom have we got here? Who's reading? I'll go for it then, okay. Right, okay, verse 45 now, chapter 2, verse 45. Tre gunya vishaya veda nishtre guna bhavarjuna nivardando nitya sattvasto niryoga kshematmavan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Paramatma Prabhu, can you read for us?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
The Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes. Be free from dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. Shall I carry on, Mataji?
Yes, please, Prabhu.
With purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. All material activities involve actions and reactions in the three modes of material nature. They are meant for fruitive results, which cause bondage in the material world. The Vedas deal mostly with fruitive activities to gradually elevate the general public from the field of sense gratification to a position on the transcendental plane. Arjuna, as a student and friend of Lord Krishna, is advised to raise himself to the transcendental position of Vedanta philosophy, where in the beginning there is Brahma Jignasa, or questions on the supreme transcendence. All the living entities who are in the material world are struggling very hard for existence. For them, the Lord, after creation of the material world, gave the Vedic wisdom, advising how to live and get rid of the material entanglement. When the activities for sense gratification, namely Karma Kanda chapter, are finished, then the chance for spiritual realization is offered in the form of the Upanishads, which are part of different Vedas. As the Bhagavad Gita is a part of the fifth Veda, namely the Mahabharata, the Upanishads mark the beginning of transcendental life. As long as the material body exists, there are actions and reactions in the material modes. One has to learn tolerance in the face of dualities such as happiness and distress, or cold and warmth, and by tolerating such dualities, become free from anxieties regarding gain and loss. This transcendental position is achieved in full Krishna consciousness when one is fully dependent on the good will of Krishna. Hare Krishna Maji, thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you. So see, we said just earlier on that I told you, Prabhupada said that the Bhagavad Gita is the fifth Veda, namely the Mahabharata. So you remember this whole discussion, this whole dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna are taking place on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and it forms part of the Mahabharata episode. Right, it's on the battlefield. So Bhagavad Gita was spoken during the Mahabharata war. That's why it said over here that the Bhagavad Gita is a fifth Veda, namely the Mahabharata. Right, it happened during the Mahabharata. Right, and the Upanishads are the beginning of transcendental life. So when you start this, you are starting to study Bhagavad Gita. You are starting studies in transcendental life. You are now starting to learn how to get out of this material life, how to transcend into higher consciousness. Okay, and also very interestingly and importantly here, when we spoke about the Vedas earlier on, see, I've bolded it. The Vedas deal mostly with fruitive activities, but for what? To gradually elevate the general public from the field of sense gratification to a position of transcendental plane. So it is a purificatory process. All right. Okay, next one, 246. Chapter 2, verse 46 on my book, page 118. Sharat Prabhu, you present. Would you like to read for us? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Evam
46.
Yes. Evam artha udapane sarvata sampulato okay tavam sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijnanate. Mataji, is okay.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes. You carry on reading.
Yes, Mataji. Translation. All the purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all the purpose of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. Purport: the rituals and the sacrifice mentioned in the Karmakanda divisions of the Vedic literature are meant to encourage gradual development of self-realization, and the purpose of self-realization is clearly stated in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 15.15. The purpose of studying the Vedas is to know Lord Krishna. The primeval case of everything. So self-realization means understanding Krishna and one's internal relationship with him. The relationship of the living entities, Krishna, is also mentioned in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita 15.7. The living entities are part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, revival of Krishna consciousness by the individual living entities is the highest perfectional stage of Vedic knowledge. This is confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam 3.33.7 as follows. Aho bhavata sava pachot. Mataji, can you please help?
It's okay, Prabhu. You don't have to read the Sanskrit. It's fine.
It's difficult. Okay, Mataji.
It's okay.
Okay, sorry. Oh my Lord, a person who is chanting your holy name, although born of a low family like that a Chandala dog eater is situated on the highest platform of self-realization. Such a person must have performed all kind of penances and sacrifices according to Vedic rituals and studied the Vedic literatures many times after taking as birth in all the holy places of pilgrimage. Such a person is considered to be the best of the Aryan family. So one must be intelligent enough to understand the purpose of the Vedas without being attached to the rituals only, and must not desire to the elevate to the heavenly kingdoms of or a benefit when to be elevated to the heavenly kingdoms for a better quality of sense gratification. It is not possible for the common man in this age to follow all the rules and the regulations of the Vedic rituals, nor is it possible to study all of the Vedanta and the Upanishad thoroughly. It requires much time, energy, knowledge, and resource to execute the purpose of the Vedas. This is hardly possible in this age. The best purpose of Vedic literature is served, however, by chanting the holy name of the Lord, as recommended by Lord Chaitanya, the deliverer of all fallen souls. When Lord Chaitanya was asked by a great Vedic scholar, Prakashananda Saraswati, why the Lord was chanting the holy name of the Lord like a sentimentally instant of studying Vedanta philosophy. The Lord replied that as spiritual master, had found him to be a great fool and thus asked him to chant the holy name of the Lord, Lord Krishna. He did so and became ecstatic like a madman. In this age of Kali, most of the population is foolish and not adequately educated to understand Vedanta philosophy. The best purpose of Vedanta philosophy is served by inoffensively chanting the holy name of the Lord. Vedanta is lost word in the Vedic wisdom, and the author of number of the Vedanta philosophy is Lord Krishna, and the highest Vedanta is the great soul who takes pleasure in chanting the holy name of the Lord. That is the ultimate purpose of all Vedic mysticism.
All right.
Hare Krishna. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. See,
Hare
very
Krishna.
interesting. Okay, so you see the importance of chanting the holy name. Here it is quoted, Srimad Bhagavatam is referenced here, where such importance is highlighted on chanting the holy name, so much so that it says here that even a person born in a low family, like a person who is even a dog eater, is placed on the highest platform of self-realization. How? Just by chanting the holy name. And it's also highlighted here that there are so many rituals to perform. There's so many rules and regulations to follow, but we cannot follow them all. We common men cannot follow them all. We don't have that capacity. We don't have that high elevated, intelligence to follow rules and regulations of Vedanta, like it used to be followed back then in Satya Yoga, etc., like we spoke in previous classes. Therefore, the Lord so mercifully, Krishna himself, came down in Kali Yuga in his golden avatar form, as in the form of Lord Chaitanya. He came in the form of Lord Chaitanya, in the mood of Srimati Radharani, and preached to everybody, and taught everybody, and led by example that we should all be chanting the holy name of Hare Krishna. The Hare Krishna Mahamantra is therefore the prescribed means of self-realization in this age of Kali Yuga. In Satya Yuga, the means of liberation and spiritual advancement would have been meditation and yagyas. Treta Yuga, yagyas, deity worship in Dwapar Yuga. But in Kali Yuga, we have been prescribed with also a yagya, a sacrifice. But this sacrifice is the chanting of the holy name. Can everybody please unmute? Paramatma Prabhu, can you unmute everybody, please?
Okay, Maharaji.
I want everybody together. Let's unmute everyone. Okay, everyone's not unmuted yet. Some are still muted. Madhuri Mataji is not. Madhuri Mataji, unmute, please. Mahatma Prabhu, you can unmute everybody. Okay, I want everybody together to chant one round of Hare Krishna. It's prescribed here for Kali Yuga. And really speaking, if everybody wants to advance in spiritual life in this day and age, please chant this Maha Mantra daily. So let's go together. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That's what this Maha Mantra is. That's what's been spoken about here in this Purport by Srila Prabhupada. All right, you can mute everybody, Paramatma Prabhu. Thank you for that. All right, now let's just discuss here a few points from the previous verse.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Can you all hear
Yeah.
me? Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I
Krishna
muted
says
all.
here, okay, purposes of a small well can be served by a great reservoir of water. Right? Krishna makes that analogy. So likewise, purposes of the Vedas can be served by one who knows the purposes behind them. And rituals in Karma Kand is there for what? To encourage gradual process of self-realization. But the purpose of self-realization is to know Krishna. That is a purpose of studying Vedanta. That is a purpose of studying Vedanta. So we do this gradual process. We follow the Vedas, we follow the Karmakand section, we do our rituals, we purify ourselves, and then when we become serious practitioners, we study the 5th section of the Vedas, which is the Mahabharata, and the Bhagavad Gita is contained in the Mahabharata. And then all the knowledge unfolds from this Bhagavad Gita, because Krishna himself is speaking it to Arjuna for our purpose, and we take all his instructions from here to advance spiritually. That's what it is in a nutshell. Okay. Few more points here. Okay, we spoke about this. The purpose of Vedic culture is best served when one understands Krishna and one understands his eternal relationship with him through the process of chanting, which we said earlier on is recommended in this age of Kali. Right. So I said, okay, so far. Can we go to verse 47? Chapter 2, verse 47. My throat is a bit sore today, devotees. Please excuse me. Quite sore, actually. I think I'm coming down with the flu. So if you can have more readers, I really appreciate that. Okay, right. Okay, Veronica, you want to read this first?
Okay, I'll read. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Karmanye vadhikarashte ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalahetur ma te sangostva karmani. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities. Never be attached to not doing your duty. Purport: there are 3 considerations here: prescribed duties, capricious work, and inaction. Prescribed duties are activities enjoined in terms of one's acquired modes of material nature. Capricious work means actions without the sanction of authority, and inaction means not performing one's prescribed duties. The Lord advised that Arjuna not be inactive, but that he performs his prescribed duty without being attached to the result. One who is attached to the result of his work is also the cause of the action. Thus, he is the enjoyer or sufferer of the result of such actions. As far as prescribed duties are concerned, they can be put into 3 subdivisions, namely routine work, emergency work, and desired activities. Routine work performed as an obligation in terms of the scriptural injunctions without desire for result is action in the mode of goodness. Work with results become the cause of bondage. Therefore, such work is not auspicious. Everyone has his proprietary right in regard to prescribed duties, but should act without attachment to the result. Such disinterested obligatory duties doubtlessly lead one to the path of liberation. Arjuna was therefore advised by Lord Krishna to fight as a matter of duty without attachment to the result. His non-participation in the battle is another side of attachment. Such attachment never leads one to the path of salvation. Any attachment, positive or negative, is caused for bondage. Inaction is sinful. Therefore, fighting as a matter of duty was the only auspicious path of salvation for Arjuna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. So you see now Krishna goes on speak about Arjuna. He's bouncing back to that now. Arjuna must do his duty. But this time he's not saying just do your duty without attachment to the fruits. So sacrifice the fruits of your actions. Right? And we spoke a lot about duty before. We used many examples. We applied it to our day-to-day lives. Now let's talk about non-attachment of the duty. Right, so let's take an example. Let's open it up. How would we apply this to our lives now? We do our duty, but we must not attach ourselves to the fruits of that action. Give me an example. Shalina Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
How would you do a
I think
duty?
it means
Yeah.
that whatever we do. So let's just take today, for example, I baked a cake for the Radharani, and I don't expect to receive praise about it and people to say how wonderful it was. It was just something that I wanted to do, and irrespective of the fruits that I may gain of it.
Correct. So we do devotional service. It means that when we do devotional service, we must not expect anything in return. Because Prabhupada says, when you start doing that, then it becomes a business transaction. It's no longer love. When you want something in return, then it's no longer love. It becomes a business transaction, right? I'll do this for you. You pay me back in whichever way. Right, and like, you know, sometimes some people will say they take vows. I take a vow, my Lord, I will do this prayer for you. Make my son pass his exam with, I don't know, distinctions or something. Now that's a business deal, right? And even in our duties at home, for example, we do our duties in educating our children. Does that mean that we expect now when your child grows up and is educated and earning this good salary, you don't tell him, I'm educating you now, when you grow up, you make sure you pay me back. Every month I want 10% of your salary. We don't do that because we love our children. We're doing it out of love, out of duty, out of love. And that love doesn't warrant any payback. So that means we are not attached to the fruit of educating our children. But that doesn't mean now children mustn't be dutiful. Let's reverse it now. It doesn't mean children mustn't be dutiful in supporting their parents, right? Because that also should be done out of love and no attachment to its fruit. Can you see the practical side of it? There's a practical side of it here. When we do our devotional service, like Shalina Mataji said, you bake for Radha, today's Radha Ashtami, Shalina Mataji baked a beautiful cake for Radharani as an offering. But she wasn't attached to the fruit of that action. She didn't want anything back. She baked it out of love. Likewise, many of you, you're cooking every day and offering to the deities. You'll pick a flower from the garden and you offer it to the deity because the flower looks so beautiful. It smells so fragrant. Not because Krishna, today there's a flower for you. Tomorrow you give me something. Because when there's a loving relationship, then that exchange comes both ways without even having to ask. Okay, so sacrifice the fruits of your act. What we read now, verse 47. Eh? We read 48 now. Om yogasta kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhi asiddhayo samo bhutva sammatvam yoga uchyate. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shalina Mataji, read this purport for us, please. 248.
Hare Krishna. Perform your duty equipoised. Sorry, I don't know the word. O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. Krishna tells Arjuna that he should act in yoga. And what is that yoga? Yoga means to concentrate the mind upon the Supreme by controlling the ever-disturbing senses. And who is the Supreme? The Supreme is the Lord. And because he himself is telling Arjuna to fight, Arjuna has nothing to do with the results of the fight. Gain or victory are Krishna's concern. Arjuna is simply advised to act according to the dictation of Krishna. The following of Krishna's dictation is real yoga. And this is practiced in the process called Krishna consciousness. By Krishna consciousness only can one give up the sense of proprietorship. One has to become the servant of Krishna or the servant of Krishna. This is the right way to discharge duty in Krishna consciousness, which alone can help one to act in yoga. Arjuna is a Kshatriya, and as such, he is participating in the Varnashrama Dharma Institute. It is said in the Vishnu Purana that in the Varnashrama Dharma, the whole aim is to satisfy Vishnu. No one should satisfy himself, as this is the rule in the material world, but one should satisfy Krishna. So unless one satisfies Krishna, one cannot correctly observe the principles of Varnashrama Dharma. Indirectly, Arjuna was advised to act as Krishna told him.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Okay, so here again, Krishna says, abandon attachment to success and failure. Doesn't it remind you of another verse that we did earlier on in chapter 2? Be equal in success and failure. Chapter 2, remember? 2:14.
Yeah, 2:14.
Remember 2:14. Matras prachasta kaunteya sitosna sukha dukkha agama apayino nityas tam stitikshasva bharata. Where Krishna says, O son of Kunti, referring to Arjuna, I'll read this English to you, right? O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharat, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Very difficult to do, but Krishna likes that. We must be equal in success and failure. Now, if you are not attached to your actions, to the fruits of your actions, isn't it will be more achievable? If you're not attached to failure and success, it's very difficult for us to do. We humans, we've got a mind that's very active. But then again, Krishna is saying to you, and Prabhupada is saying to us, that we can train the mind. How can we train the mind? We read in the verses earlier on. By studying Bhagavad Gita and chanting what Lord Chaitanya asked us to chant. Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it trains the mind. It starts making the mind steady and calmer and drawn more towards God consciousness and away from bodily consciousness. In this way, the mind starts getting steady, slowly but surely, gradually, bit by bit by bit, like when you take medication. When a sick body, you feed the sick body with medication. Slowly, the medication by regular administration heals the body. Likewise, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, by regularly repeating it, it heals the sick mind. It makes it steady. It makes it more God conscious, and you become ready to receive more transcendental knowledge and achieve your goal, right? So to perform your duty equipoised is difficult. To abandon attachment to success and failure is difficult. And such equanimity, Krishna says, is called yoga. We all can't just sit and suddenly become big yogis. It's a process. And the simplest process given for this is chanting of the holy name. Is that okay? Arjun is a Kshatri, and as such, he is participating in the Varanashram Dharma institution. We spoke about that duty earlier on. Extensively in chapter 1 and beginning of chapter 2. One of the reasons for Arjun to fight. One, he's satisfying the Lord, because the Lord has ordered him. He is obeying authority. Two, he's a Kshatri, it's his bounded duty. He's following the Varanashram system, the Dharma, the laws laid out by, if you're Brahman, you do preaching. If you're a Kshatri, you protect. If you're a Vaishya, you do trade. If you're a Shudra, you serve the other classes. If everybody sticks in their own lanes, then everything goes on very smoothly. But whatever your duty is, whatever your ashram is, do it properly. Do that duty properly and try not to attach yourself to the fruits of the duty. And how do you not attach yourself to the fruit of that duty, of the results of that action? By chanting the holy name. It all boils down to the same point over and over and over again. Okay. Let's do the next verse. Verse 49. chapter 2, verse 49, page 121. Anybody else wants to read? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Durnena hi avata avaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya buddho sharanam anivicha kripanaha palahetavaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Anybody else wants to read the English that I haven't asked and would like to read? Please feel free. Radhika Mataji, what about you? Can you read this text for us, 49?
Yes,
Please,
yes.
thank you.
Hare Krishna. O Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. Purport. One who has actually come to understand one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of the Lord gives up all engagements save working in Krishna consciousness. And already explained, Buddhi Yoga means simple, loving service of the Lord. Such devotional service in the right course of action for the living entity. Only misers desire to enjoy the fruit of their own work, just to be further entangled in material bondage. Except for work in Krishna consciousness, all activities are abominable because they are continuously bind the worker to the cycle of birth and death. One should therefore never desire to be the cause of work. Everything should be done in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of Krishna. Misers do not know how to utilize the assets of riches which they acquire by good fortune or by hard labor. One should spend all energies working in Krishna consciousness, and that will make one's life successful. Like misers, unfortunate persons do not employ their human energy in the service of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Radhika Mataji. All right, so you see here, Dhananjaya is Arjuna, right? Krishna is referring to him as Dhananjaya. Keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service, and that in Krishna consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy fruits of their works are misers. So people who enjoy the fruits of their work are called misers. Krishna is calling them misers because they want to keep it to themselves. Isn't misers hard? They want to keep things to themselves. So if you do good, you want to keep that good deed for yourself. Then Krishna is saying such a person is a miser. And such misers, what happens to them? They are bound here. They get bound to the fruit, they get bound to the cycle of birth and death. Because they want to attach themselves to the results of their work. And they get entangled in this material bondage. Right? But if you sacrifice the fruits of your work, the results of your work, you sacrifice it, you're not attached to it, you're doing it in full God consciousness or in full Krishna consciousness, then you will be successful. Such a person is not a miser. Such a person is a fortunate person because he is making the most of this human form of life. It's also said over here that, is it in this verse? It says here that we all have constitutional positions, right? Yeah, there's it here. One who has actually come to understand one's constitutional position as eternal servitor of the Lord gives up all entanglements, save for working in Krishna consciousness. They'll give up everything else except for devotional service in other words. Right? One who understands his constitutional position. The constitutional position of the soul is to serve his creator. The constitutional position of the soul, who are us, jivas, or atomic souls, part and parcel of the super soul Paramatma. It is our duty to serve the super soul. That's what is being said here. And you know what? The mind is very active. We spoke about this before as well. So if you don't serve God, if you don't serve Krishna, you're going to serve somebody. You're going to serve yourself. You're going to serve your senses. And it is said here, you're going to continuously serve your senses and material activities. You will continuously be bound here and trapped in the cycle of birth and death. And we want to get out of the cycle of birth and death. It's painful. It's very painful. Nobody wants to keep getting born and die, come back, and you face the fourfold miseries of birth in this lifetime. Birth in this material world, you get born, old age, the body gets diseased, and then it dies, and only to come back and face the trauma again. When is enough? Okay, chapter 2 again, verse 50. Verse 50. Sharat Prabhu, gonna read for us.
Hare Krishna is 50. Okay. Good. Hare Krishna is Mother 2.5.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. You can read Prabhu. Buddhi Yukto.
Buddhi Yukto Janah Jahatita Yuge Shukrata Duskrete Tasmat Yogeya Igyashva Yoga Karma Shukula Kaushalyam. I don't know what is funny.
Very good, no, Kaushalam, very good. Prabhu.
Yes. Translation. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reactions even in this life. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is the art of all purpose. Since time immemorial, each living entity has accumulated the various reactions of his good and bad work. As such, he is continuously ignorant of his real constitutional position. One's ignorance can be removed by the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita, which teach one to surrender unto the Sri Krishna in all respects and become liberated from the chained victiminations of action and reaction, birth after death. Arjuna is therefore advised to act in Krishna consciousness, the purifying process of resulted action. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. So so if you act in Krishna consciousness, in God consciousness, then you are purified. There's no resultant action, right? See how many verses we've got. 1 second, please, devotees. 51. Oh, we've got quite a few. Okay. What did we read now? We read 50, yeah? Okay, let's read 51. Karmajam buddhi yukta hi palam tyagva manishinaha janma bandha vinirmuktaha padam gachanti Anmaya Anamayam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries. So you see, devotional service when you perform, this is a process of freeing yourself from birth and death because you're purifying yourself. Chanting is also devotional service. So you do all your other devotional service, cleaning, cooking, serving devotees, and you do your chanting as well. All this is devotional service. The liberated living entities belong to that place where there are no material miseries. The Bhagavatam says, for one who has accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Mukunda, or the giver of Mukti, the ocean of the material world is like a water contained in a calf's footprint. Parampadam, or the place where there are no material miseries or Vaikuntha, is his goal. not a place where there is danger in every step of life. This is such an important verse for the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Mukunda is Krishna, right? The person who gives mukti is referred to as Mukunda, that is Krishna, right? And it said here that the ocean of the material world, this vast material world, for a person who is situated in Krishna consciousness, to cross over this material, this vast material water is like water contained in a calf's footprint. It's such a small, easy step for such a person to cross because he's properly situated in Krishna consciousness. And he goes to this place called Vaikuntha Lok, which is the spiritual world. We spoke about this as well, and we referred to charts as well in our previous classes. The Kunta means miseries. Vaikuntha means a place where there is no misery, and that place is the spiritual world. So that is his goal. Vaikuntha, the spiritual world. Okay, so you've got to accept the lotus feet of the Lord to attain that state. Owing to ignorance, one does not know that this material world is a miserable place where there are dangers at every step. Out of ignorance only, less intelligent persons try to adjust to the situation by fruitive activities, thinking that the resultant actions will make them happy. So this is temporary happiness. It'll come and go, like we said last week, like waves in the ocean. They come and they go. Prabhupada further says here, they do not know that no kind of material body anywhere within the universe can give life without miseries. The miseries of life, namely birth, death, old age, and diseases, are present everywhere within the material world. But one who understands his constitutional position as the eternal servitor of the Lord, and thus knows the position of the personality of Godhead, engages himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Consequently, he becomes qualified to enter into the Vaikuntha planets, where there is neither material, miserable life, nor influence of time and death. So if you want to get over birth and death, go back to the spiritual world. It's not influenced by birth, death, or time. Prabhupada further says, to know one's constitutional position means to know also the sublime position of the Lord. One who wrongly thinks that the living entity's position and the Lord's position are on the same level is to be understood to be in the darkness and therefore unable to engage himself in devotional service of the Lord. He becomes a Lord himself and thus paves the way for repetition of birth and death. But one who is understanding that his position is to serve transfers himself to the Lord's service, to the service of the Lord, at once becomes eligible for Vaikuntha service. For the cause of the Lord is called Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga, or in plain words, devotional service to the Lord. Okay. Devotional service, which we covered so extensively in so many verses. So, we said also, I'm going to just tell you this one point, the constitutional position of the soul is to serve, right? We say that. The mind is active. The mind cannot sit inactive at any point in time. So you're going to be constantly thinking or wanting to do an activity. And if you are not engaging your senses and your mind in serving the Lord, you're going to serve yourself. You're going to serve your senses and you're going to get entangled. Sometimes you find people are so attached to doing the service. We also have pets. We like to serve our pet animals, even wild birds. We put out some prasadam for them, some grains. We serve our dogs, serve our cats, and all of that. But don't get yourself into such a state that your service is so fixed on serving other entities and your senses that you lose sight of serving the Supreme Lord. Instead, dovetail the service. And some people, atheists, they say there is no God. But even the atheist mind is active, and even their constitutional position is to serve. Because you find the atheist man is serving God spelled backwards. What's God spelled backwards? Huh? You're not going to serve God, Prabhupada says you're going to serve dog. Isn't it? But you're going to serve. You can't remain inactive, not serving. I'm an atheist, there is no God. I do not serve. No, you're going to serve. You're going to serve animals, you're going to serve your senses, you're going to serve each other. Because your constitutional position is to serve. But those kind of services that such an atheist person is doing is binding him to this material world. So dovetail your actions. Make it Krishna conscious. Make it God conscious and transcend this material plane. Okay. Okay, I think we'll have to stop here now. It's 5:02, right? What we stopped at 1. Can we open up the chat, please? I'll just give quick realizations. Shalina Mataji.
Mataji, the one thing I realized is, I mean, we realize it often, but, sometimes it just hits home harder. That how did Prabhupada at his age have the strength to come up with these English words that even we that go to English school first language, we don't even know these words. He was just a person of a different level. I mean, there were so many words I didn't even know myself in English. And
Yes.
I have a certification and I just don't know them.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Yes, well, that's one of the qualities of a pure devotee's expert, isn't it? One of the 26 qualities of a devotee is he is expert. Prabhupada is expert.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mataji. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Rasavati Mataji, have I got your name right? Rasavati Mataji, you want to say anything? Radhika Mataji, okay, go Rasavati Mataji, I see you unmuted.
I was just wondering about so far that we've been reading that Prabhupada, in his old age, he did so much for us, and we can't even do 1/3 or one page of what he's been doing for bringing the knowledge to us about consciousness, Krishna consciousness. So, and he's given us such an easy way back to God as in the Maha Mantra. And I find it very, very uplifting for me to just chant only because I'm not very well versed in the Upanishads and Vedic knowledge. But I prefer to chant, which I've been doing quite a bit.
That's perfect, because that's prescribed anyway, Mataji, as we read and discussed earlier. That's prescribed for us anyway, to do this chanting of the holy name. And that's our way of going back and getting purified. Yeah.
Well, I'll be 70 years next month, so that is why I'm finding it difficult.
No, it's so wonderful that you are so nicely engaged.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Anybody else? Radhika Mataji, Madhuri Mataji, anybody else?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Sarvanga.
Hare Krishna, Sarat Prabhu.
Yeah, just Mataji, I was thinking about this 2.47 reading that I was reading somewhere. I don't know. I heard proper lecture. Demigods, they like to take in Kali Yuga path because of Lord Chaitanya movement is there. Very easy to attain perfection, liberation. And it's very, very easy, just chanting Harinam. It's very simple. Yes. And even I was thinking that even I can't read Sanskrit, one word, 4 sentences. How can we read Vedas?
That's true. It's difficult.
And understanding and conclusion. Supreme God who is, it's very, very difficult. Fortunately, devotees massive. We got books. Yes, we're reading proper books and being with us devotees. It's a very simple, happy moment.
Thank you, Sharat Prabhu, for that share. So Prabhupada has done all these translations for us in different languages. We said the Bhagavad Gita is translated for us in so many different languages. We must take full advantage of this and study Srila Prabhupada books. That's in one way we can reach our gratitude in that way, by reading it, discussing it, and spreading it out to others as well. We mustn't keep it for ourselves. All right. Shamla Mataji, Hare Krishna. Thanks for joining us today. I think it's a first day.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
That you joined us. You want to say anything?
Actually, it's my first, lesson that I'm on, and I'm really awed at, what discussions have been taken place. So maybe the next time round when we meet, I will be able to say something. I'm like in so much of awe. This whole devotion to the Lord is really great. Something great that you are doing. And I want to show my gratitude to Prabhupada and to you for bringing this knowledge to us. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Sorry, Mataji, you broke up there. I didn't hear what you said. You want to show gratitude too?
It's my gratitude to Prabhupada, who has brought this knowledge to everyone, and my gratitude to you as well for sharing your knowledge with us. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Okay, I'm just an instrument, and all gratitude goes to Srila Prabhupada and the gurus and the Lord himself and all of you, because without all of you, there will be no group discussion. Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much. Anybody else want to share before we close?
I just wanted to say something.
Yes.
Haribol.
Haribol, Veronica.
Yeah, just want to say something. You know, when one of the Prabhus spoke about Prabhupada being an expert, in terms of his knowledge in English and the words, I read somewhere in one of it was an offering made to Prabhupada, and it was by a devotee of Prabhupada, initiated by Prabhupada, one of the Mirajas. He says when Prabhupada wrote the purport, when he was writing, he would start the sentence and automatically he wouldn't know how his pen would flow. And that's the gift that Krishna would give you. Krishna will be by your side. Krishna is always beside a pure devotee.
100%. 100%. Beautiful. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Navkishore Mataji. Anything from your side? Kadruta Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for wonderful class, Mataji. I have one question. Why is called Arjuna Dhananjana? Because I know Ananjana is is Hanuman, the son of Anjanaya. Why
Yes.
he is called here Dhananjana?
Sorry, Mataji, I can't hear you. Can you repeat that? What did you say about, you said Hanuman?
Why in the verse 50, Arjuna is called Dhananjana? Because we know a son of Ananjanaya is Hanuman. This I didn't understand.
No. What verse number is that? 50. What verse number is that, Mataji? It's
the beginning
49.
of the verse.
It's not Ananjaya. Is it verse 49?
Yes, yes.
No, it's the word there is Dhananjaya. Dhananjaya means conqueror of wealth. It refers to Arjuna. See, it says here, Buddhi Yoga Dhananjaya. Is that the verse you're referring to?
Yes, Mataji, thank you.
Yeah, it's Dhananjaya, right? Dhan is wealth, right? Dhananjaya is the conqueror of wealth, refers to Arjuna. Right, anybody else? Kadruta Mataji? And then we can conclude.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for beautiful class. Sorry, I was very late to join. My net was gone, so my phone was switched off.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Mataji.
Thank
Hare
you. Okay, thank you. Right. Anyone else? Before we close. So let's end. Somebody can do Nashinga Dev Pranams. Whoever wants to do it, please. Anybody wants to do Nashinga Dev Pranams. Before we end, everybody is aware that today is Sri Radha Ashtami. Yeah?
Yes.
The holy appearance day of our Maharani Srimati Radharani. The most merciful, purest devotee of the Lord. So we pray and beg for Srimati Radharani's mercy today. Without Srimati Radharani, it's not possible for us to attain any love for Krishna. Okay. So Shri Radha Ashtami.
I'll do Nishingadev.
Motsav ki jai.
I'll do
Okay,
Nishingadev.
thank you. Thank you.
Nishingadev Pranam ki jai. Namaste Narashingaya.
Namaste Narashingaya.
Praladaya Yene.
Praladayini.
Hiranyakashi Purakshaha.
Hiranyakashi Purakshaha.
Shilakanakalaye.
Shilakanakalaye.
Ito Nishinha Parato Nishimho. Ito Nishinha Parato
Nishinho.
Yato Yato Yamitato Nishinha. Yato Yato
Yamitato Nishinho.
Bahi Nishimho Iteya Nishimho.
Bahina Shingo, Hidayana Shingo.
Nishimhamadim Sharanam Prapade. Nishimhamadim Sharanam Prapade. Tava Kara Kamala Pare Nakama Bhuta Shinga. Tava Kara Kamala
Nakamatuta Shringam.
Lalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringa. Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jayo Nishingadev, 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 Jayo Nishingadev, Jayo Pralat Maharaj, Pralat Maharaj, Pralat Maharaj, Jayo Pralat Maharaj, Jayo Jayo Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Nishingadev Bhagwan ki jai.
Jai.
Radha Astami ki jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna. Sorry, I didn't share the pranams with you all on my screen. I must remember, if I forget next week, please remind me to project it. Nantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Om Nama Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivargacharya Stotra. His Divine Grace Abhay Charanararinda. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nama Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivargacharya Stotra. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sati Gaur Bhaktan ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dhamathura Dhamaya Jagannath Puri पंढरपुर अरवादी कुरुक्षेत्र अयोध्या द्वारिका धाम की जय श्री गंगा माई की जय यमुना माई की जय भक्ति देवी तुलसी देवी महारानी की जय सामवेद भक्त वृंद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नीताय गौर प्रेमानंद हरि हरि बोल. All glories to the immortal devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the immortal devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the immortal devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha. Kripa sindhubhya evacha patitana pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah ananta koti vaishnav vrindi ki jai. Shri Radha Ashtami Mamaha Utsava ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining, dear devotees. So I'll meet you all again next week. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Beautiful class.
Thank you so
Hare
much,
Krishna.
madam.
Ji, thank you.
Krishna.